who you are here. They don't know who Josh Pate is here. If you don't know who Jake Crane is or Josh Pate is, you're not going to beat the South in college football. It's the same reason, Jake, that we don't beat Brazil in soccer. And it comes down to the fact that nothing else matters in Brazil. There's plenty of other things that matter here. There's plenty of other things that matter here in the Midwest besides college football. And I didn't know that until I arrived here. Jake, they can beat Alabama in an odd year in overtime in the college football playoff and then get Washington in the national championship and win. But, dude, it just – when the SEC says it just means more, I don't think people realize just how much it means. It's not life or death. It's much more important than that. And I'm here to tell you.
Good evening. Big Red Overreaction brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. The Jay Stinnett contracting hotline is 402-951-1620. We do have one line open if you want to jump on that now. Again, 402-951-1620. Also, Big Red Overreaction brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center and Mechanical Repair. No Name Nutrition. Live a better, healthier, more natural life. And we will have a Peerless Energy Systems scoreboard for you momentarily. I'm Nick Hanley alongside John Schreiner. Joey Colbert is taking your phone calls. Ooh.
How you feeling?
Can we get a hold? Can we get a defensive hold there in the end zone? My goodness. So as we were just watching Nebraska losing 28-20, Huskers trying desperately to get in the end zone to at least have a 2-point conversion to try to tie this game up. Then it would have maybe been the ill-fated overtime. We didn't get there. Yeah. And I'll say this because I know a lot of people were watching that last play and you're thinking, where the hell is the hold at? There were a lot of that today.
They didn't get called all day.
No. And the problem with that one was Jamal Banks had no shot of getting to that ball. He was being drugged down. That was pretty obvious, but that didn't lose the game for Nebraska.
Did not.
There's a lot to get to in this one as Nebraska falling to 5-5 with 2 games remaining, with Wisconsin and Iowa looming, trying to get to number 6. Had a shot today. Real quick, total yards. SC outgains Nebraska 441-310. SC in the passing yards at 259 and Nebraska's 191. SC with 182 rushing yards to 119. The biggest issue for USC today was the penalty yards. 5 penalties for 7.
It's probably the only reason why it was this close.
You're probably right. Defensively, really since the end of the first quarter, John, there was a lot of Nebraska giving up some chunk plays, being gashed.
There was one play. The play that USC continuously ran is very simple. It is like day one football stuff. The counter. Mm-hmm. They ran counter and just gashed Nebraska over and over. And like Woody Marks, I would venture to say that of his 146 yards rushing today, 90 to 95 of them probably came on counters.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're right.
That one play, Nebraska just had no answer for it.
Yeah,
like, they just ran it over and over again, and they're like daring Nebraska to do something to stop it.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't. Nebraska would not do anything about it.
Woody Marks finishes 19 carries for 146 yards. Nebraska leading rusher was Emmett Johnson, 10 carries, 55 yards. Dante Dowdell had 8 carries, 52 yards. So you did have a combined effort between those two running backs and then throwing Heinrich Haarberg with 2 carries for 15 of 119 total yards. there were some good things offensively that we will, again, we'll get to, but a lot of the same feeling with this one. There were some questions. You and I were talking about this before we went on, of the decision to call a timeout, to not call a timeout before halftime, and when you decided to call a timeout. A lot of interesting things there. Then they're late in the game. You don't call, or you do call the timeout just to run a play to get a delay of game, hoping to get a defense offside.
Sense.
There's just some things to do. We will hear from Matt Rhule momentarily when he does address the media. Let's get right to the phone calls, though. Again, 402-951-1620 is the number to the J. Stinnett Contracting Hotline. Let's lead off with Chris. Chris, out of the gate, you are the first caller tonight on Big Red Overreaction. Hey, Chris. Chris,
how you doing today?
Good. How are you, man?
Not too good. Mm-hmm. First, I know you were saying that the refs didn't lose the game, but that was horrible. It was two opportunities that we had opportunity to score, and the refs did not call holding on those two calls on Jamal Banks. Second, the defense. I mean, we had opportunities to take the ball, to get the ball. I don't know what Tommy Hill and number 7 Hart opportunities. They kept finding those weak points and they explored, and we had opportunities.
Yeah,
it was a weird game today. Ball was bouncing around, and it just fell into with USC and not with us. And this is, I mean, I like what I saw with the offense. Rhule missed some wide open people, missed people. So, I mean, I'll hang up and listen from there.
I appreciate it, Chris. Leaves the line open at 402-951-1620. Yeah, the end of the game, that is a tough one to swallow just because it seemed to be pretty blatant. But getting to that point of the game, there was a lot of things that Nebraska did to themselves, was unable to stop when it came to USC and what they did offensively, John. You brought up a great point about what they were doing, especially with their counter game. And this is something that has been on tape for a while. I was extremely curious. One of the biggest things out of the bye week is how would Nebraska defensively match up with USC that has a good running back in Woody Marks, has speed on the perimeter with 2, not just 1. I mean, everybody's going to talk about Zachariah Branch, and he is outstanding. But I would also look at Kyron Hudson, who I think right from the get-go, that guy's got some speed too. And this is something Lincoln Riley is always going to be able to do is devise a way to get the ball in those guys' hands. It comes down to quarterback play. And Meava was okay, but I would say he
wasn't special.
I totally agree. There are moments in this game, and I'm going to say something, and I know everyone's going to be like, well, then what do you think about Nebraska? USC's not a great team.
Nope.
USC's not a good team.
Nope.
Okay? USC,
they're struggling to get bowl eligible.
It still wouldn't shock me if they don't. It still wouldn't shock me if UCLA pulls it off against them. And I don't think there's any way they're beating Notre Dame because USC, with the talent that they have, I think are completely mismanaged. On the Nebraska side, Nebraska, much like USC, is not a good team. I think these are two average teams where their shortcomings are a little bit different because one is more of a loaded roster that is a little bit more mismanaged, and I think you have a talent gap there when it came to Nebraska, but we can also say there's some mismanagement as well when it comes to just overall game operations during the game.
Yeah.
So there is that part of this.
I know that there was a lot of optimism about the change in offensive coordinator and, Holgerson's going to fix it. Don't worry. Satterfield's trash. Like that was the talk all week long. I mean, the Satterfield's trash stuff has been going on for a while, but it's the fact of the matter is you can't change what's happening on offense completely. You can't fix it all in a week.
Mm-hmm.
You can't fix the fact that your receivers don't get separation. Like the interception that Rhule threw in the first half, right? He forced the throw into a spot where he was kind of backed into a corner because his wide receiver, Isaiah Nair, did not separate from the defender. He ran a bad route. It was poorly executed on the route. And Dylan shouldn't have thrown it, first of all, because he ran such a bad route. But then, because he didn't separate from the defender, it ends up being an interception. And they're the point here is that it's not one thing with the offense. You can't point to one part and say, I know what it is. It's this. Nope. There's a lot of layers to this thing. Like, there are a lot of points of failure along the way as you climb the ladder. And it showed up today. Like, I sent you something ahead of the game, right? I sent you a text message and I said, this is just for proof.
Yeah.
This is what I expect out of this game. Lower scoring. Nebraska's inability to run the football. I said there would be a special teams mistake, and there wasn't a real glaring one. I mean, Ja'Cory Barney, fair catch on the 5-yard line, not a big deal. I mean, it's a mistake, but it's not like what I was expecting. I expected USC to get off to a slow start with a new quarterback. And the last thing I said, it's a close game late, and Nebraska fails to win. Yeah. I mean, if you've been paying attention, any of you out there in the listening audience could have written down the same things because it's the same story.
It is. And I was talking about this yesterday with Gary of the things that I kind of expected in this game was you would see moments where you're wondering, oh, okay, maybe there was something that was identified with this offense, with Dana Holgorsen that they would try to use more of. And I've been saying it for, a month, that I would like to see more urgency. And that doesn't always mean tempo, but just urgency with this offense. There was a little more of that, for sure. There was a little more of that. I thought outside of Fedoni and Barney that there could be somebody else that maybe has been identified as, let's get the ball in their hand a little bit more. And I think that was Jen-Aaron Bonner. Okay, we got Matt Rhule. We are going to go to Matt Rhule talking to the media right now. Here is the head coach.
All right. Obviously disappointed that we didn't win the game. Sort of a familiar refrain, obviously coming down to the wire, having a chance to win it, have to make one more play, even down to the final throw, and just we're not able to make it get it done. So credit to USC, they thought they played well. I'll hold tight. Some of our beat writers are not here yet, so they're just coming in. So hold on one second. I think Evan's trying to come. Kind of a tough setup here. So as like I said, tough result. I thought the guys laid it on the line. Play here or play there. And even on that last drive, the ball goes through our hands. They catch it, get the first down. Just really in the first half, two big plays for them that went through our hands resulted in a touchdown. The play to get us down to the 6-yard line. So. I kept trying to calm the guys on defense down on the sideline, saying, "Hey guys, this game's going to come down in the fourth quarter. We all know it is." And it did. So, that credit to Dana, to be able to come in after a week and be put in those situations, and even at the end trying to move the ball, final plays, fourth down. What I do know is that will only get better and better and better. I think offensively, you're just now beginning to see the genesis of what I know will happen. Thought our special teams versus some really special returners showed up. We kicked the ball well, kicked off well. We blocked a kick today. So a lot of things that we did well. You take away maybe one play here, one play there, but that's football. And that's the new Big Ten, as I told our guys. This isn't like the old Big Ten West, 17-13. You come out to USC, they've got great players. You're going to have to make a lot of plays. And so disappointed, but encouraged by some of the things that I saw.
On the one timeout you used on unit, were you considering making it or?
We were gonna fake it if they set out their punt return team, and then because they kept their punt safe out there, and then I just felt like, hey, we should go for this. It was right in gray area there, so we lined up, and if they gave us the look we wanted, we were going to take it and go for it. If they didn't give us the look, instead of throwing another go ball, I was going to punt the ball down and let the big guys go play. And I think at the time it was a 1-point game, so I felt good. It was 4th and 3. It was 4th and 2 or 1. I would just gone for it, but it was in that gray area in between, and I felt like, hey, taking a 5-yard delay a game wasn't going to hurt us. So went to run the fake. It wasn't there. Call timeout. I said, hey, let's go for this. Dana came up with a play call. If it was going to be all out 0 blitz, we were going to throw a go route. Didn't want that. So I said, hey, take the delay. So kind of a unique set of circumstances there, but really was just trying to make a play there and trying to extend the game. But we punted the ball down well, had good field position. I'd like to think that, we would be able to get the stop there. We just weren't able to get the stop there.
How surprising was that fourth down call that Rhule made on the option?
To be quite honest with you, like I was going up and down the sideline saying, hey guys, they're going to win the game in 4 minutes with the quarterback running the ball. I expected them to do something of that ilk. I can't say that I thought it would be the speed option. I thought they were going to pull the ball and have the quarterback run it. It's a credit to our interior, front, but it was a great play call by him. And I'll have to go back and look at the tape to see what exactly happened. Anytime you run those plays, we're in man, we have someone for everyone. So I'm not sure exactly how it unfolded because we had to snap the ball the next play. But down the stretch, even that, and then down in the red zone, they ran the quarterback both times, which is obviously something we knew with Mayaba coming into the game, could show up.
What do you think of just the operation, the mechanics of Dana running the offense, just how it's worked considering the time that he's had?
Yeah, I think what Dana's done is amazing. I mean, in such a short amount of time. And the first half, we only had 28 plays. Part of that's, when you score on defense, kind of flips those numbers. But we had a couple opportunities, to maybe make a little bit more. And we didn't do it. But just, the verbiage, the language, the timing, the ease with which guys got in and out, and guys that, haven't maybe touched the ball as much, made some plays. Although, like, Janier and Bonder today, did some really good things. So at the end of the day, offensively, they played man against us, and we just we're trying to find ways to win versus man. We have to find more and more ways to win versus man. And I think that was really at halftime kind of some of the things that he was looking for.
Going back to the same stuff about the one thing, two plays before, you got the ball goes off the tight end and snap, it's a fumble, and they recover, and then the next play, the ball bounces around them.
No, that's the worst thing that could happen is if I start feeling snake bit. I feel like I've been entrusted to coach the program, and I'm trying to help us break through. And anytime you break through, you punch something, you want it just to open up, but you just keep punching until finally it breaks, right? And so, yeah, we had some plays go against us. We also turned the ball over down inside the red zone twice. We came away with 2 field goals. So I think the more that we continue to develop offensively under Dana and some of the things that he did, I think the better we'll be. And then again, that was a frustrating play, but they made the play. I mean, it's like the ball in the end zone, that I'd like to see us pick that ball off. So they made some plays. They're great playmakers, and we'll continue to work.
What did you like most about what you saw from Dana's offense? Is it that you were like, yeah, that's the area we got better in just this first game?
I think one of Dana's, and he'll talk to you obviously this week, but I think one of the biggest things that he saw coming in was like, hey, we got to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand quicker. Sometimes it might be a screen, like we threw a screen on the last, leading up to that 4th and 3, and Emmett came out free, and the guy ran over the top, made the tackle to keep us, so. But I liked the fact that he got the ball out of the quarterback's hands. But make no mistake, there was lots of opportunities to make more plays that we kind of gave away, right? And so there's a lot more work to do. There's a lot more, growth. That's hard to say with 2 games left, obviously, right? But if you look at it in terms of the global move, bringing him in, I just think it's really encouraged by that and just the way he sees the game. Like, hey, they're playing man, we're going to have to attack man, we have to win versus man. Hey, they're doing this. And so I think he just sees the game in a really sophisticated yet simple way.
For the second field goal on that third down play, did you have Banks kind of look like he shot over there? What did you see, or what happened on that play?
You're talking about I'm trying to think.
Just before that, you made it 21-20, and just those 2 sequences where you had to self-field goal.
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember. I remember the one, we threw the fade down the sideline, and they reviewed it. We felt like they brought 0, so he threw it to where it's supposed to be. Gave Jamal a chance to make the play. I guess he ended up out of bounds. So he's kind of guy was draped all over him, pulling him down. So on the other one, we ran a mesh concept. Looked like the guy flashed open. But a lot of things happen. So I think probably, I'm sure if you ask Dana, probably maybe there's a call here or there he'd like back. But I think a lot of the things were just hey, we're going to get the ball in the playmakers' hands and have them make people miss. And kind of goes back to the statements I made to you guys. You call the plays, give guys a chance to make a play. They're going to go make a play. And, we'll continue to work on making more plays.
What about Cedar Wright, coach, and just the effort he gave, the pick six, the block kick, almost enough to help you guys win this game?
Yeah, no doubt. I know how much this meant to him. He stopped me in the locker room on the way out of here and just shared a couple things with me from him, which I'll leave to him to say. But I'm happy for him. It's a chance to come home. He's from here. He's played against those guys. He's been a great addition to not just on the field, but in the locker room as well. I think he's a really, really, really cool young man, and I'm happy that he made those plays. And that extra point block was huge, right? I mean, that field goal block was huge. That changed. That could have changed the landscape of the game. So again, we just that's the way I see football, right? You just keep developing your players, and you give them opportunities, and you go out there. If you want to win the game, you block the kick. If you want to win the game, you intercept the ball, or you make the block, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we had a lot of guys make a lot of plays tonight. We probably just needed one more.
What did you see from the guys in terms of the energy or the mindset?
I thought the guys were great. I thought the guys they worked their tails off the last 2 weeks, getting ready for this. But they worked. I go back to my week against Indiana. I told you guys I thought we had a great week going to Indiana. The challenge was to do it on game day, right? Show up and do it on game day. Like, there's nothing worse than hey, we practice well, but we don't win. Go do it on game day. And so, there's areas that where maybe they match up better than us in this area, right? There's areas maybe where we match up better than them, and so that's a talented football team. I know they've been struggling, but it's a talented football team, and we had to take more advantage of some of those things, the areas that we had. But I thought they practiced well. I thought they showed up. I thought they wanted to play. I thought they competed. First times in a while we came out of the half and moved the ball down and scored. We would have loved it to be a touchdown, but it was a field goal. So there's a lot to build on.
It's Matt Rhule. It sounded like he was in the middle of the concourse as fans were filing out, talking to the media there. We'll get to what the coach had to say. We will get to your phone calls, too. Jack in North Dakota has been holding on very long. Let's get to Jack before we take our first break. Good evening, Jack. You're on Big Red Overreaction. Hey, Jack.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, buddy.
Love listening to you guys. I got a group of 6 couples. We go to at least one game a year, but we stopped going to games 2 years ago just because of how bad Nebraska plays. Right? It started with the game at Minnesota with Rhule, where they just they quit in the second half.
Oh, yeah. The Demery Croft game. I'll never forget it.
The problem that my group has is I think the overarching feeling is we're watching the games and we hate losing more than the people that are putting in all the work. We're not even doing anything in the off season, right? I sit on the couch. I'm fat. I'm 5'6", 200 pounds. I love my bourbon. But I tell you what, I played 4 different sports at the high school level, and I'm not missing 3, I'm not going to swear, but 3 interceptions, right? On toss-up balls like Malcolm Hartzog did. My problem is, you guys, how does that happen? Is it just magical that it's not happening in practice? Is that really a thing? And then I know Matt Rhule, I love him to death, and I think he's trying super hard. But at the same time, it's you know what? I played with dudes in high school that were freaking awesome in practice. And you know why they were awesome in practice? Because they were effing huge and they were fast. But do you know why they weren't great in games? Because they didn't understand the concept, right? They would blow their assignments. They wouldn't rely on the guy next to them. And so the problem I have with I just listened to Matt Rhule's press conference. The problem I have is we had a good round of practice again, but at what point do you start benching guys that aren't making plays? I don't care if they're making the plays in practice. If they're missing them in the games, when do you start benching them? At what point do you start playing Caleb Benning at corner? I mean, Tommy Hill's supposed to be a first-round draft pick. He misses the easy INT, right? Or
And then the touchdown, the lack of effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just poor
and then
tackling.
he comes back and he quits. He quits on the tackle. Like that's not an attempt. So and then you trot him out there every week. When Matt Rhule gets up there and says, "We're trying," we had a great group of practice. I believe in these guys. To be honest, like I'm getting to a point where I think he's completely full of shit.
Oh.
And I'm at a point where, like, I have a 2-year-old. I'd love to take him to a Nebraska game. I live in North Dakota. I went to a University of North Dakota Fighting Hawks game, and I'm like, this is lame.
Hey, good on you. You called them the Fighting Hawks, by the way. Good on you.
Yeah. I mean, they got destroyed by South Dakota State. But my problem is I'm watching the game. I'm like, these guys play with more energy than Nebraska does. And the Nebraska players are making tons of money and have crazy facilities. How is that even possible? Like, how did we get to the point that we're at? I'm just like, I'm super frustrated. I'll hang up and listen, but that's my perspective and kind of the point of my group that's from Nebraska and surrounding areas.
Yeah.
Jack, hey, have a stiff bourbon, okay?
Oh, multiple. Thank you.
That's why we love what we do. Nebraska loses 28-20 to USC.
Boo.
Both teams are now 5-5. Nebraska with Wisconsin and Iowa remaining. We're going to come back. 402-951-1620. That is the number to the J. Stinnett Contracting Hotline. Big Red Overreaction is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Also brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center and Mechanical Repair. Brought to you by No Name Nutrition. Live a better, healthier, more natural life. When we come back, John will also have a Peerless Energy Systems scoreboard for you. And we will get right back to the calls. We got numbers. We got thoughts. We know you have thoughts. We want to hear from them. Also, welcome to all of our folks in 1620 The Zone and Zone TV and the stream. A lot of comments. There's a couple things that a few of you have brought up that I also want to get to, including something that Brett brought up way, way back earlier before Matt Rhule went on. It had something to do with USC's big play that led to their first touchdown. But again, there's a lot of different stuff. I'll ask this question. How surprised are you, though, with the score, the way everything played out? John, I think you hit some great points of what you thought might happen and how it actually played out, because Husker fans, we've seen this before.
The script writers are predictable.
That it is. We're back with more here. It is Big Red Overreaction on 1620 The Zone. Big Red Overreaction brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Also, the Jason and Contracting Hotline. It is full right now. So Don and Dave and what do we got there? Nuno, Joey, stay there. We are going to get to you here in just one moment. Also, would like to thank Dingman's Collision Center and Mechanical Repair as a sponsor of Big Red Overreaction. Also, No Name Nutrition. Live a better, healthier, more natural life. John Schreiner, Nick Handley, and Joey Colbert with you. Johnny's got a Peerless Energy Systems scoreboard. What do we got, John?
All right, time for your Peerless Energy Systems scoreboard, your local compressed air systems experts. Folks, turn your children's eyes, avert their ears from the score that I'm about to read to you right now. San Jose State, 14, Boise State 0, 10:48 to go, second quarter. Boise State's playoff hopes may be on the line right here. Tonight. Also, another potential upset. This one in the Big 12. Arizona State 14 in Manhattan, Kansas, beating Kansas State, who is stuck on the goose egg. 12-11 to go in the second quarter there. Oregon with an early 3-0 lead in Wisconsin. Still first quarter action there. The big showdown of the night. The SEC Eliminator. Tennessee, Georgia. Just underway, 10:44 to go, first quarter, no score in that one. A wild one in Columbia, South Carolina today. South Carolina led the entire game. Missouri scores late to take a lead, but with 15 seconds left, Lenora Sellers throws a touchdown pass, and the Gamecocks take down the Tigers 34-30. In other Big Ten action, Ohio State 31, Northwestern 7, Penn State 49, Purdue 10, as we'll get to some more scores later as they come in.
And we're, of course, doing some scouting right now and watching the Oregon-Wisconsin game here in the 1620 The Zone studio. We'll keep you posted on that because that is Nebraska's, I mean, am I crazy to say this, John? That is Nebraska's best chance of getting bowl eligible is next week at home. Where have we heard that before?
The last next best hope?
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Yeah. Let's get back to the Jason and Contracting Hotline, 402-951-1620, and say hello to Don. Good morning.
Good morning, Don.
Good evening, Don.
You awake?
It's still evening out here in South Dakota, boys. Don't worry.
Thank you.
But, yeah, I've kind of become numb to this feeling. I'm not just overtly upset. I mean, I'm certainly not happy with the outcome. But, the last game I went to was Colorado, which in hindsight was pretty good timing because that was a pretty good high. Mm-hmm. But, kind of like Jack said, I don't really anticipate going to any games. I'll save my money for volleyball matches. But, I guess my question for you is, is our receiving core just that poor? I mean, is Garrett McGuire teaching anything? I mean, for Nayor and Banks, I mean, those guys are 22, 23 years old. They're kind of, presumably what they're going to be. But I mean, I hate to put all the blame on Rhule, even though he had a so-so night. But I guess I'll just that's my question. I'll listen offline.
Appreciate that.
I'll say this.
Okay.
I've not been impressed with the two transfer wide receivers.
Nope.
They don't separate at the top of the routes. Neither one of them block particularly well on the perimeter.
I do want to give Jamal Banks credit on the touchdown drive that Emmett Johnson had the touchdown reception. That might have been, and I tweeted this out, that might have been Jamal Banks' best series in a Nebraska uniform. He had the big third down catch. He had two very good blocks on the perimeter. But collectively, yes, you're right, John.
For what Nebraska has, right? For what they had last year, where you had a promising young receiver in Jalen Lloyd. You had a promising young receiver in Malachi Coleman, who's redshirting now. Jalen Lloyd plays sparingly. You bring in two senior transfers to add productivity to your wide receiver room, and they have not done that. I mean, like it's clear, it's simple, and there's a lot of reasons why. Number one, they don't get separation, and number two, they don't help in the run game enough.
Yeah. Let's go to our next phone call, and that is Joey. Joey, you're on Big Red Overreaction. Hello. Oh, Joey there?
Joey?
No, we lost Joey. I know what that beep voice means. Let's go next to Dave. Dave, you're on Big Red Overreaction. Hey, Dave. Uh-oh. We're having the phone issues again, are we? 402-951-1620. That is the number to the Jason the Contracting Hotline. Let's try Nuno. Nuno, you're on Big Red Overreaction. Hello.
All right. Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. It's been a while since I called in. I used to call in back in the day when Damon was still doing these. I'll be leaving the leaving the stadium from out of town.
Yeah.
I honestly, I still haven't traveled since Mike Riley. I did go to OU. I went to Colorado last year and Minnesota. I said it last year, believe it or not. I thought the whole staff should have been fired. You can't win 6 games at Nebraska. It's just the same old story. I missed the UCLA home game. The first time in 30 years I missed a home game. I quit traveling, obviously. But here's the sad part. I have a daughter that works for the airline. I fly for free.
Yeah.
My wife works for the hotel industry. I get 5-star hotels pretty much for free. I get free tickets to the game. They're just not worth my time. Other than the defensive line, we haven't developed a player on any side of the ball. It's back to, and I haven't called. I've been sitting quiet, but at the end of the day, it starts at the top. It starts with Rhule. You're panicking your second year. You're saying, just like Frost did, you screwed up your staff. You got to reorganize. Sorry, buddy. You're not this day and age. You should be able to have some results a heck of a lot quicker. And I'm not even talking playoff bound. Are you with me? A bowl game. Six games. I think there's 42 bowl games this year. Top 84 teams. I mean, God. I mean, if Nebraska fans want to keep supporting that garbage, do it. I'm sorry. I've been almost 400 games in my life. I started going to games when I was 5 years old. My son just turned 20. We haven't traveled since Mike Riley. He's been to 150 games. Think about this. We're fanatics. I don't think we're asking for a lot. Go to a bowl game. Thanks for letting me vent. But, guys, keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully they get better, because if people quit caring, you guys won't have a job on Saturday night. So thank you.
Appreciate you, Nuno. I want to go to a tweet because it's very similar to what Nuno's bringing up too. And this is Amazing Daniel, who friend of 1620 The Zone. He said, here's what I don't ever want to hear again. Quote, Nebraska fans' expectations are too high, end quote. He's 100% right. I've said this for probably 6-7 years now, John, is when your expectation is 7 wins, I mean, nobody. There is not one Nebraska fan that is asking for this season or next year. Hey, we need to be a college football playoff team or bust. No one's thinking that. People just want to see this damn thing get to a postseason, get to a bowl game. So
nobody's even expecting it, Nick. They're just begging for it.
Yes, and so I'm sorry, but to expect 6 wins with the resources that Nebraska has compared to others, those are not high expectations. That's not living in the 90s Nebraska fan anymore. No, Amazing Daniel's right. Nuno's right. You should expect that. I don't care if it's year 1 or year 4. You should always expect at least that with what you have at your disposal.
I really thought they'd win 7. I honestly thought this year, with the way the schedule is set up, I thought they'd win 7. And I thought they'd do so pretty comfortably. I thought 7 was a safe pick. They're not getting 7 now. Like how could you have any belief that they're going to win their final 2 games?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to it's getting tougher to think that they're even going to win one of the final 2 games.
I'm one of the people who I said 8.
Yep.
I thought the way the schedule worked out, I was maybe a little bit more high on this roster than what is playing out. But
I think we overestimated how we thought the wide receiver core was going to be a strength. It hasn't been. We thought that the offensive line had made strides. They've seemingly reverted to the offensive line that they were 2 years ago. It's just, man, it's all very, very disappointing. Yeah. And like for everyone, like we love it when Matt Rhule stands at the podium in the offseason, and we love what we see with him interacting with the team. And he's a fiery, motivational speaker. But listen, like if you're a fan of this team, I can understand you starting to ask questions like, is it all smoke and mirrors? Like, are we just here? Are we all no cattle? Like, what's happening here? You know, you have to start asking the questions now, because all we've heard is like, and listen, I know a lot of the fans out there who are complaining at the end of last season said, well, all we got to have is a quarterback. We had a quarterback, we'd have won 10 games.
Yeah. Running back. Now give me a gamer at running back.
You got a 5-star quarterback. and now he sucks. Like
Mhm.
at some point, like it's not one thing. It's the whole thing.
Yeah. The operation, man.
Listen,
Absolutely.
here's a saying translated from Russian, and it goes like this: a dead fish stinks from the head.
I like that. Let's go to Will next on Big Red Overreaction. Will, what's up, man?
How you guys doing?
Good.
Well, everyone complains about the coaching and stuff, so let's skip over that. Do we not have any other defensive backs besides Hartzog on the roster? If I gotta watch him get burnt or lose a jump ball one more time, I think I'm gonna flip a lid. It's at least 3 or 4 times a game.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
picked on. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that was a problem. Malcolm Hartzog, and this is where when you go up against an offensive-minded guy like Lincoln Riley, he's going to look at certain matchups that he wants to expose, and he was able to. I think they also felt like they were going to have some winnable matchups against Tommy Hill. That also worked out to their advantage. Yeah, it's your frustration. I don't think is alone when it comes to certain elements of the secondary for sure. And I would say the good news is there is some young reinforcements, but now we're at that point of, will we see some of those young reinforcements here before the season's end?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm hoping to see some of the, so it makes some of the young wide receivers too, but I'm not entirely sure that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And another issue this season, how many times is Rhule going to stare down a wide open receiver to not throw the ball to him?
Yeah.
It's not the first time that
There's something happening there, man.
Is wide open in the end zone.
There's something going on.
So,
yep.
Yeah, I know. I can't figure it out either. So, yeah, just frustrated. Felt like we had opportunities once again, and there's a lot to complain about the officiating, but felt like we didn't make enough plays.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The officiating is part of it, but it comes down to not being appreciate the call, Will. Appreciate that.
To be frank, USC played that game like they wanted to lose it. Like at times they were trying to hand it to Nebraska. They played some bad football.
Yeah.
And Nebraska was inside the 10 kicked twice and kicked field goals.
Mm-hmm. When you have it, and
that's what the game came down to.
There's a momentum situation there. In that game, when especially the way USC was moving the football, you get that key turnover with the Maeva strip, that you get that down to the 16-yard line. That's where your offense is taking over. USC holding Nebraska to a field goal all of a sudden felt like they maintained the lead. They feel great about that.
Absolutely.
There is no kill shot right there. And so, and that, I mean, not even a kill shot, but just that people could say, well, they got 10 points off of turnovers. Unfortunately, this team, if it's 2 turnovers, you need all 14.
Yep.
10 is not going to do
100%.
That's just the way this thing is. Let's go to Dave in Taiwan. Good evening, Dave. You're on Big Red Overreaction.
Oh, hey, John. Hey, Nick. This is Dave. Yeah, good morning. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here. The game time kicked off at 4 a.m. So, so this sort of world that we're living in with the Huskers kind of wrecking my weekends.
Sorry about
anyway, there's not a lot to say. I mean, no, that's okay. There's not a lot to say. I mean, the callers have mentioned a lot of good things. Some of the commentators, like Turk and others, are posting interesting tidbits, like the fact we've not won a November game since 2016 or something like that. I guess what I'd like to ask you, too, is if we kind of look to the positive, Coach Rhule ended the press conference saying, oh, well, we have a lot to build on. So do you see anything that can be built on that might give us a chance to get over the hump in any of these next 2 games, particularly the Wisconsin game? Because, I mean, we all talk about the 1-score losses and, 6-6 is mediocrity, but we need to get to a bowl game. So is there anything that gives us a modicum of hope? Is it Emmett Johnson's Simeon Shake? Is it Jamari Butler? He looks like he's playing pretty good. Is there anything that was even a little bit different in the offense beyond just getting the ball out of Dylan Raiola's hands a little bit more quicker? So I'll leave it at that. I just want to say appreciate your show. It really keeps me connected from 10,000 miles away, and go Big Red.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate you calling, Dave. That's awesome. I would say this. I mentioned it earlier, John, and I'm sure you probably have some other thoughts too. I thought Janiran Bonner, seeing him get the ball a little bit more in some more creative ways, he's a guy that can give you something from time to time too. I think he's right. I think Emmett Johnson, there is a vision issue with our running backs.
Oh,
when there are times I wish Emmett would just bounce it to the outside, he cuts in, and then the exact opposite for Dante Dowdell. When I would love for him to find the cutback lane instead of just driving into contact, he doesn't do that. Or him bouncing it to the outside, seeing that there's an edge. I still go back to that Ohio State game when he leaps the pile at the 2-yard line and the entire left side of the field is wide open. Even if you pursue and just make an initial, I think, basic cut to the left, nobody's even close to touching you in your scoring.
You know, I consider myself a connoisseur of running backs. I played the position in high school to no great effect. But when Gary and I do the high school games on Friday, one of the things I love to do is break down running back play. And I'll tell you, I don't like any of them. I don't like anybody that I've seen play the running back position for Nebraska this year. I don't think that they run the plays that Nebraska wants to run very well at all.
Yeah.
Emmett Johnson's good if you get him some space.
Yeah.
Like if you can get him in the open field, he's pretty good. It's sometimes tough to get him there.
Yeah, there's a lot of wiggle. Sometimes it's wasted movement with Emmett. But when he bursts, when he is just going north to south, there's something there. Dante Dowdell, again, at times when he attacks, there's something there, but it simply the vision of all the running backs. I don't know if that's just instinct and it can't be coached out of them or coached into them. I don't know. That has been a source of frustration.
Some of it is just your natural instinct to play the position and to understand how the defense is going to flow and where the pressure is going to come from and where the cutback lane might be. But also some of it is just talent, right? But there is some skill involved as well.
Yeah.
There are learned behaviors that you can pick up that will make you do those things better. So it's not impossible to make those guys good, but it's just like the wide receiving group, Nick. Like we've seen these guys do good things at other places. Well, why can't they do good things at Nebraska? And then you have to start thinking about it. Like we made fun of the hire of the youngest wide receiver coach in the country, right? Everyone made a joke about that and they got all defensive. Well, now what's happening?
Yeah.
Nebraska's wide receiver development flat sucks. I'm not afraid to say it now. It flat out sucks.
Yeah. Where's the forward progress with that entire group? You know, you're absolutely right. And look, I players need to be held accountable as well. But at some point when you're a program that develops, even from year 1 to year 2, you should see that. And there are certain guys that are just not on the field as much that I would have thought that they would be a big part of it, but they aren't. And what does that really mean for the collective development that's going on in a lot of key areas? I'm going to take one more call before we hit our next break. Let's go to Wade. Wade, you're up next on Big Red Overreaction. Good evening.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good, Wade.
I'll start out by saying I'm 54 years old and a 3-time cancer survivor. And going through all that.
God bless you, by the way.
Thank you. Going through all that was easier than watching this team the last 8 years. I mean, that's just been brutal. And the first time was back in 2000 when I had cancer. I was born in 1970, so I was 31 years old. All I ever knew from following this team as a young boy, because of my father being from Lincoln, even though we lived in Mississippi my entire life, was winning. And so I was 34 before we didn't make a bowl game. So I was totally spoiled. But even then, if you had asked me, I would have bet you my remaining right testicle and everything that I own that we would never go through an 8-year stretch like this in my lifetime. So obviously I would be completely neutered and homeless right now if I'd made that bet. But I digress. Going back to the
quite the digression.
Going back to the game, there's some things that just made some notes as I was watching the game that just really what bothered me. Like, why the hell did we say we wanted the 10-second runoff of the clock?
I have no idea.
The end of the first half. from 126 to 116 with USC in a second and 22, backed up, and NU with the 2 timeouts left. That made no sense to me at all. And then neither did the seemingly stupid timeout we took. Let's see, I guess it was our first timeout of the second half, trailing 21-20 with over 11 minutes to go, just over 11 minutes to go. Come out like we're going to go for it. Mm-hmm. And then we not only do we not go for it, we don't even make a half-ass attempt at drawing them offside. So just a complete waste of a time. Now, it ended up not mattering, really, at the end of the game, but it could have, and it has, bit us in the ass before poor clock management. And, of course, everybody knows about the 2 INTs we should have had in the first half. But, on that second one in the end zone, how crazy was that? It bounces around off both players, and the guy – I mean, you could run that. You could have that exact same thing happen 100 more times, and neither one of them would have caught it.
Oh, and we saw it again for a first down conversion too.
Critical first down.
A big first down get for USC there in the fourth. There, it bounces off a helmet, and then all of a sudden, hey.
Exactly. That's the one where they ended up getting 9.5 yards on the 3rd and 10, and ultimately got a first down after going for it on 4th and short.
Yep.
So I think certainly the USC's caught the bounces and the breaks in this game. But at the 2-minute timeout in the second half, we had 20 points, but of course we had a pick six, so the offense only had 13 points that they scored. So we still struggle mightily to get it in the end zone when we get the ball in the red zone, which basically just shows that all the speculation, I listened throughout the last 2 weeks since Holgorsen was hired. It really was only so much that he could do in the limited amount of time that he had before this game. And then as far as the play officiating goes, they let the players on both sides play in the secondary, but on the last play of the game, that was as blatant and egregious of a defensive pass interference call as I've seen in any of our games, and they just let it go. Yeah. I mean, it was just so obvious. His jersey was like he was like trying to unshirt him, and going back to the bounces I mentioned earlier, you got Ja'Cory Barney gets involved in the end zone on the final drive of on a play with, I think it was about 20 seconds to go. And again, the ball's bouncing around off players up in the air, and we don't get the lucky bounce. Go figure.
Yep.
And then the last thing I want to say is, I was thinking about this too. We have exactly one quality win out of our 5, and that was against Colorado in both teams' second games. Mm-hmm. That's great, but raise your hand if you'd like to play them again right now.
Would not.
Nope. Hell no.
I'll take Wisconsin instead.
They would love to get I think they would love to get a piece of Nebraska again if they could.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wade, really appreciate the call, man. Be well too. Some good stuff there.
But here's the thing I'll say. USC got the bounces, and Wade's right about that. But you know what nobody's talking about? If Nebraska goes and punches in a touchdown on one of those 2 turnovers that they got.
Well,
the bounces that USC got. If Nebraska can go take that fumble, stick it in the end zone, take the lead, close the game out afterward, nobody cares that USC caught a touchdown off of a bounce.
Let's just call the damn thing what it is. Can we just make our own luck? Can we quit worrying about and I'm not saying you're saying this, John. I'm just saying this is the whole. The bounces aren't going Nebraska's way. We all remember 2021, the best 3-win team ever. Man, they just didn't get the bounces. At some point, can we just make our own breaks where we don't have to worry about that crap? Like I'm so past that. I'm so tired of that. Where there were a lot of flukish things that happened, but my God, I want to see where Nebraska. You don't even have to worry about they didn't get a lot of breaks, but somehow they overcame because they're just a tough team. Because there's a culture that believes even when the breaks aren't going their way, whether it's officiating or some weird bounces with the football, that there's a mental and physical aspect that align that they're just winners.
Yeah. And I know a lot of it is said in jest or tongue in cheek, but stop saying Nebraska's cursed. Just cut it out with the magical thinking. Curses aren't real. There's no football gods. There's none of that stuff. Nebraska has been a mismanaged football program for more than a decade. They're not very good. Mm-hmm. And they have a mental lapse in time in the clutch, they lapse mentally. They have fragile confidence because of all of the one-score losses and the late game breakdowns. It is it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, oh, we can't have another one-score loss, but here's another one-score loss, right? Like, it's all wrapped up in it. There's no external force that's causing this.
Right.
It's completely internal.
Yeah.
It's from the inside out.
Well, I don't disagree with that. Big Red Overreaction is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Also by Dingman's Collision Center and Mechanical Repair, brought to you by No Name Nutrition. Live a better, healthier, more natural life. Mike, Kyle, Sean, Bud, stay right there. When we come back, we're getting right back to the phone calls. Again, Nebraska loses to Nebraska. Nebraska loses to Nebraska.
They lost to Nebraska, all right. They sure did.
Nebraska loses
You're
to
not
USC.
wrong, Nick
That
Hanley.
does happen a lot, too. They lose to USC 28-20. Both teams now at 5-5. We are back with more Big Red Overreaction on 1620 The Zone. Nebraska drops another one in November, and another attempt at bowl eligibility goes by the wayside as they lose to USC 28-20. A couple of final numbers to pass along. USC with 441 total yards to Nebraska's 310. It was SC outgaining Nebraska in the passing yardage, 259 to 191, and in the rushing yardage, 182 to 119. Yards per play, 6.6 for USC, 4.9 for Nebraska. Some standouts. Woody Marks, 19 carries for 146 yards for USC. It was Emmett Johnson and Dante Daldo combining, this is a plus, for over 100 yards. In fact, to be exact, at 107 yards. Nebraska finishing at 119 yards, as I mentioned. So some things there. It is time to
just some things.
Some things.
Not good things,
Yeah,
not bad
but
things, just
some
things.
Some things.
We don't have good things or bad things anymore. We just have things.
Yeah. And we have a scoreboard, Jim.
We have a scoreboard brought to you by Peerless Energy Systems, your local compressed air systems experts. Big upset in the SEC today. Billy Napier trying to cash in on that second chance at life he got down in Gainesville, and he pays it off with a big win over LSU in the Swamp today. Gators get it done 27-16 to send Brian Kelly into a fury. Wonder which accent he'll use this time. Colorado gets their 8th win of the season. I know, plug your ears. 49-24. They beat up on the Utes of Utah, the team that was favored to win the Big 12 with the outset of the season. Notre Dame fighting for their positioning. Perhaps they will get into the playoff. They got a big showdown with USC coming up. They win today 35-14 over the Cavaliers of Virginia. Texas doubles up Arkansas 20-10 to move to 9-1 and stay atop the SEC. And some games going on currently. Tennessee is taking a 7-0 lead over Georgia with 1.5 minutes to go in the first quarter. And Boise State has just scored a touchdown. Guess who? Ashton Junty from 2 yards out. He's got 17 carries and 57 yards to go along with that touchdown. Extra point pending as we head towards halftime. Boise State looking to tie it up with San Jose State.
All right, let's go back to the Jason Contracting Hotline, 402-951-1620. We'll lead off with Mike. Good evening, Mike. You're on Big Red Overreaction.
Hey, guys. How we doing?
We're doing, man. How are you doing?
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I know.
It's Groundhog Day.
I'm all right.
You good?
Yes, it is. It is. For 8 years now about my Groundhog Day. Yeah, I was just wondering. I just have some questions. Just, why is Jalen Lloyd getting the ball for the first time and 5 seconds to go in the game?
Fantastic question.
Why does Banks have good stats at Wake Forest but not here?
Another great question.
Then I was wondering, this ain't popular, but I don't know. Is Tony's 3-3-5 defense, is that good for the Big Ten? I mean, last year he did well, and then this people watch film on it or whatever. We've been gashed by the run. They can't stop the counter all year long. Nash has been gone all year. I don't know if he lost all that weight to wrestle. I don't know. I don't know. What about Carter Nelson? Where's he at?
Yep.
Why ain't Carter Nelson doing anything? I mean, we got players out there, I think, and I like Dana. I like Dana a lot better than Sat. I didn't like Sat from the beginning, but well, and he can't do everything in 1 week, and he's still got the same players and everything. I understand all that. So my questions are more on the wide receivers, and you guys are right on the running backs. None of them have any vision, terrible vision. But yeah, and who's coaching the running backs? Why are our defensive backs? Hill can't tackle. He cannot tackle. He might be good at coverage. Like
Mike, he got better at tackling at the start of the. I admit, like in years past, he was a bad tackler. He looked a lot better early as a tackler. This year,
all right. Why does our team not get better as the year goes on? I don't get it. And the 2-minute offense and the time clock management is still horrible. But I don't know. I like Rhule though, but I think that I hope he's not done. I hope Dana ain't the only thing that gets done this year.
Yeah, Mike, appreciate the call, man. The first question he asked right away, Jalen Lloyd, and we saw that. You and I were both in awe of that catch, which was a great catch. He's a guy that I thought would be heavily utilized in this offense this year. I thought, especially with the type of attention that, at least going back with the type of receiver that Jamal Banks was projecting to be, what we saw with him at Wake Forest, and what a healthy Isaiah Nayor with his body, with his frame, what he could be, that could really open up a lot of things for Jalen Lloyd, that everything we had heard and even to some extent saw, if people went to the open practice, that speed is such a weapon, but for whatever reason, they have not been able to get him involved. That might be a Dillon thing. That might have been a Sat thing. That might be just lost in the shuffle. I don't know the answer to that one. And also to his question, Jamal Banks had good numbers at Wake Forest. I was one of those people watching those highlights and thinking, damn, that could help out a lot. And it's just been so MIA with both of those guys that it is a collection of wide receivers that you do wonder who's going to step up each week. And not because, they just have so many options that a new one's going to step up because they're that good. No, it's because you just don't know who the go-to guy is. Who do they trust? Who do they think can make big plays for them? Who's separating themselves? And then also you have to throw some on the quarterback too. When they are open, are you able to get it to them? Because again, and a lot of people we've seen the comments and we've heard even on the phone calls, the open receivers that Dylan has missed. He's a true freshman. Yes. I don't know what's going on there because you didn't see that in September. And I'll admit this one too, because everyone is looking at Colorado now and the type of job that Coach Prime has done here, especially the way that they're finishing. I remember coming on these airwaves that Monday after Nebraska beat Colorado, and I was laughing at Colorado. I thought that was a joke of a program. I thought they didn't take themselves serious at all. They weren't a serious program. They cared more about social media than they did about actually winning football games. Boy, was I wrong on that. And they're getting better while Nebraska is regressing.
How do you think Nebraska would do in the Big 12?
I don't know.
Honestly.
I honestly don't know. I feel like a fool if I said, they'd be a lot better. I honestly do. I feel like a fool to say that.
I don't know. I think they'd be better, but I think the Big Ten's a different class.
It is. I do agree with that. But, hey, you play in the conference you play in, and you can only play the schedule you can. And the way that Colorado looked in that game, I mean, they look soft.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, hey, they're figuring things out. They're winning football games. I don't care what conference you play in. I win football games. And Nebraska, again, was in a position where they could have won a football game today, and they didn't do it. That's all there is to it.
On the wide receiver question, and the question of why don't we play the young guys? Why don't we do this with these guys? Why do these guys keep getting out there? I'm not speaking for this coaching staff, but I do think I understand some things. When you bring in transfers to get them to transfer to your school, you have to make a certain number of promises. Do you not? Like you have to say, like, you can come here, you can be one of our top wide receivers, or you're going to get to play. Because if a guy's transferring from Wake Forest, if a guy's transferring from Texas, they're not going to transfer somewhere that they're going to ride the pine the entire year, right?
Yeah.
That's not happening. They're going to go to a place where they can get some sort of, or probably the best guarantee that they can, that they're going to have an opportunity to play. So if you're a coach and you make those guarantees and you say, yep, we're going to bring these guys in and they're going to get to play, you are then stuck. You're kind of stuck.
Oh,
because
that's
if you break those promises, then you have malcontents who are going to be out there saying, like, don't transfer to Nebraska. They make promises they don't keep, right? Like you're only as good as your word today.
Yeah.
And so you get stuck with these things. And this is, I think, a lot of why coaches lament the transfer portal, because you have to make certain concessions that you normally wouldn't. Right. It brings up situations that are not necessarily always good for the overall health of the team. Is that happening at Nebraska? I have no inside information. I do not know. I make no claims. But that's the read I get from the situation.
Yeah. Let's take another call here. Kyle is up next on Big Red Overreaction. Good evening, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle. Call back, Kyle. 402-951-1620. That is the number to the Dingman's Collision Center and Mechanical Repair Hotline. Let's go to Sean. Sean is up next. Good evening, Sean.
What's up, Sean?
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're good. How are you?
I got I'm
good.
Tasty beverage in my hand, so I'm all right.
I'm about to grab one during the commercial break. So, how's it going?
What kind of beverages are we talking about?
This is a Brickway coffee vanilla stout.
Yeah, we're keeping it local. I'm about to go to a Zipline IPA here and during the commercial break.
Classy. I just have a couple comments. I'm not going to ask you to wax poetic about any of them. I just want to say them out loud. I was not surprised by the result of tonight's game. Disappointed, but not surprised. There were certain things that were good, certain things that were bad. And then Secondly, I don't know how you guys feel, but I predicted 5-7 at the beginning of this year, and
good for you.
I'm feeling pretty confident about that now.
Let me ask you this, Sean, because we're getting a lot of this by one individual, especially on the stream, that's saying call out the media. And hey, I'll admit I had an 8-4. I was fooled by this team. I thought there would be a lot more progress, and I also thought the schedule would help out a little bit. You saw 5-7, and I think you are. Let's just say the percentages are a lot greater that your number hits than I think even 6-6. What kept you from getting?
Somebody on the stream is calling out the media. What do you mean?
Oh, just because we
did issue you an apology, Nick.
Yeah, because we went 8-4 and 7-5 and all that stuff. But I'm just saying, you saw 5-7. What was it about even the preseason, the off season, all of that stuff that still didn't sell you on it? Because maybe we need to take a page out of your playbook, my man.
The schedule and the team. I mean, what growth did we see? I mean, I'm not talking trash on
that's
Rhule.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that he is
everybody else is
like moving the team in the right direction, but we're in a new Big Ten, and it's gonna be hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with what Matt Rhule is doing, and I hope that we hold on to him. But I mean, you have to be realistic. You look at the schedule. You can pencil in a few wins, but there's a lot of them that you can't pencil in. Even when you play against a team like USC, on paper, you think of USC as this, powerhouse, storied program, but then they're 4-5. So it's like, oh well, maybe we can beat them. No, you probably won't, or at least at best, it's like 50-50. So it's. I really hope, as a lifelong Nebraska fan, I truly hope that Nebraska can find one more win between Iowa and Wisconsin. But I can't tell you that I think that is going to happen. The only other thing I wanted to say is that I really appreciate you guys being on the air and listening to us complain about football. John and Josh, you guys are just the best.
Appreciate it. I'm not Josh. I'm Nick. That's okay.
And I don't think I'm the John he was thinking.
That's all right. Hey, Sean, you know what? You know why we do this? Because if you could hear John and myself and even Joey before we came on the air, there is a little bit of that we were also experiencing of what all of our callers are, where we're asking the same questions you are too. And so, hey, this helps us as much as it may help you as well. We're going to take one more call, and then we're going to get to another break. Let's go to Bud. Bud, you're up next. Good evening, man. Hey, Bud, are you there? Bud. Going once, going twice. All right, no Bud. Let's go to Tom.
He was Air Bud, am I right?
Gotcha. Let's go to Tom before we go to a break. Hey, Tom, you're on Big Red Overreaction. Good evening.
Bye, Bud.
Tom. Oh, no. Okay.
That was the curse of Bud.
Should we go to the great state of Texas and say hello to Scott? Scott, you're on Big Red Overreaction. Good evening.
Yeah, you should go to the great state of Texas.
Ah, yes.
At the Burke High School in Omaha. So a couple things, because I'm pretty much in the know on quite a few things. I was a major booster for the University of Texas for over 20 years.
Okay.
Really very aware, was probably the largest suite owner for the last 20 years, and canceled that 2 years ago when I got upset with the team not singing the eyes of Texas and all that other business that went on there.
Sure.
And I moved on to support Nebraska. So I did a lot of research in Nebraska, and I want the fans to know this. The fans and the leadership have actually been very poor, very weak over the last 20 years. There's been no ticket prices increase. There's no graduated price increase. There's $25 million lost in not being current. That's not their fault. It's the leadership at the Nebraska and the prior athletic directors that have been lost in touch with what's going on today. And I'll give you an example just on NIL. Nebraska is going to spend $7.9 million. The people we'd like to compete with minimum Wisconsin, Northwestern spend 11 to 12 million, and the top people spend 15 to 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
You are not going to, and we have not recruited any player with the exception of Dylan in the top 100. And I'm telling you, the best players on Nebraska are third string at Texas right now. And I'm not kidding you. These wide receivers cannot separate. Whenever you throw toward them, it's almost intercepted every time. That's why Dylan's shy about that. And we finally got an offensive coordinator in there, and I hope you guys appreciate the play calling because I saw him at Tech. He's a hell of a play caller. Holgren is, and he's only had really 4 days with Dylan, 2 weeks with the team. He had to audit it and make adjustments, and I thought the play calling was at least fresh and innovative for the first time in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing he could throw to is the running back because the cornerbacks are covered, and it almost became the play, the whole game. So that was disappointing, but we are going to have to get current with the money that we raise because we're going to a pay-to-play system. We're going to have to be supportive of ticket prices increases. We're going to have to support the 1890 NIL and move them from 8 million to 14 million. So we can get a top 20 to top 24 player that's a wide receiver, that's a running back, that's a front line, and get them out here starting. Lastly, just speaking with the staff most recently is they're really suffering through 6-year seniors left over from COVID that have a history of accepting losses and laying down. They're having a problem with the hangover from the Frost players. And we're very early, really into recruits, extremely early, and have some pretty good talent that's red-shirted, but you don't want to waste them. So I guess I know everybody's been so patient, and boy, have we. It's been a long, long time. But I feel really good about Troy being the AD.
Mm-hmm.
He gets it. He knows the revenue. He knows how to get us there. The fans are going to have to back all that up, and they're going to have to show up and support financially because this is where we're headed. It's going to cost you $20.5 million with the new salary cap. They call it revenue share.
Right.
It's going to cost you $15 million in NIL if you want to be in the top 5 of the Big Ten going forward. End of story. You can't compete. You're just pretending. All of us calling in are just pretending if we don't support this team, we don't find the right leadership, and we don't find players that can separate because it's just sad. I do think the wide receivers are being coached poorly, and I think there's been bad routes, and they probably got the first good routes this week. But still, go through on 3 guys. We don't have a player that we almost pay over $200,000 a year other than Dylan. And there's a long list at the top 20 teams. And I just want us to be real about this of where everything is headed. Does that make a little bit of sense?
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. I appreciate the call. All the best out there. We've started this conversation. I know Connor's talked about it. I know John and Josh have talked about it in the afternoon. Gary and I have talked about this a lot. And this is why I thought the Holgorsen addition was interesting, John, is you've got to get to a point where, first of all, if you want this thing to pop, or at least, and I don't even know what pop looks like right now for Nebraska, but if you want this thing to just look better than it is looking right now, you got to get serious in the NIL. And in the transfer portal is what I mean. NIL, they're serious. I shouldn't say that, but in the transfer portal, he's right when it comes to some of the guys that they've brought over, that if you look at some of the big time programs that you're going to be up against, that you want to consider to be, if you're in a quote championship mindset, or you want to be in the Big Ten hierarchy, you got to get dudes. You just got to get dudes. And you got to find the at least the A- guy as opposed to the C+ guys.
Yeah.
And that's going to take some convincing and money, but there's going to be other programs that can match you when it comes to money. You got to be able to show them something and a reason why they can come here and want to be here. And that's why this month was important, but also this offense you could not allow to continue to go the way it had been going. And I'm not saying today was all of a sudden this revelation of, hey, see, look, it can get better, because there was still a lot of the same. But you couldn't go a situation in November where you have a lame duck offensive coordinator and you're trying to get guys out of the transfer portal when you have no idea who the OC is going to be the following season.
Yeah, and with the transfers, I like to look at when a guy transfers, who else is interested. Right? Who are the other teams that you're competing against for this transfer? Are you competing with a Georgia? Are you competing with an LSU? Are you competing with an Ohio State for this transfer? Or are you competing with a Cal? Are you competing with a North Carolina State? Are you competing with a, I don't know, Michigan State? Like, who wants this guy because they think they can get it? Right? And the curious thing, to go back to the previous caller.
Remember, here, I'll give you an example. Remember when we were just completely gaga over Nebraska winning the transfer portal battle over O'Shawn Mathis?
Yeah.
Because it was between Nebraska and Texas.
Yep.
And we were super stoked.
He didn't do anything.
But he didn't do anything.
Right? Here's who wanted Isaiah Nair when he was coming out of Wyoming. USC, Florida, Ole Miss, and Texas.
It's good company.
Right? That seems like a guy.
That's good company.
Man,
yeah, that's good company.
seems like a guy you'd want.
Yeah.
He's averaging 45 yards a game for Nebraska.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
I see.
Listen, listen to me.
I want to go back on this real quick. Kirsch in the stream says, what wide receivers are C+? Nayor, maybe Banks is F. Yeah, maybe C+ in some regard is, and I'm talking about the transfer portal overall on how these guys have panned out. Some good, some not so good. I would give an average grade in the last 4 or 5 years other than Trey Palmer was a hit. Other than that, I would say C+ on the average.
Maybe worse.
Maybe worse. Yeah. Maybe C-, maybe D.
I mean, O'Shawn hardly did anything. Billy Kemp
was not a wide receiver number one. Like in a slot, if he was a 2 or a 3.
Of circumstance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was just, yeah.
I mean, Ben Scott's been a good player you got out of the portal. He's been really good. Other than that.
Yeah, I mean, Samari Toure was, I think, a fine addition too, but there's just been a lot of nice receivers. Other than Trey Palmer, where's been the game changer? The guy that, if the ass kicker that you have on the offense said, we need to play. All right, we need to play. Go find him. He's going to be open. And even if he's not, he's going to outdog the next guy. 50-50 ball, he's going to come down with it. Running back, you know what? We need 5 yards. Give it to him. He'll chew it up. Even if there's contact at the line of scrimmage, guy's going to find a way. Haven't had that. I mean, go all the way back to when we got excited about, speaking of USC, Marquise Stepp. Oh, my God, we got Marquise Stepp. He's going to be great.
Boo.
Huh? I don't think he played after 3 games.
Boo.
So, going to take a quick break. When we come back and for Randall and Bud and Ken and Mike, don't go anywhere. Big Red Overreaction brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. The Jason Contracting Hotline at 402-951-1620. Also, Big Red Overreaction brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center and Mechanical Repair, and brought to you by No Name Nutrition. Live a better, healthier, more natural life. We're back with more Big Red Overreaction here on 1620 The Zone. Big Red Overreaction on a Saturday where Nebraska falls to USC 28-20. Nebraska falling to 5-5. They've got Wisconsin next week, and then they will wrap up regular season play against Iowa on Black Friday. Will that be the final game of the 2024 season, or will Nebraska be able to go bowling? Well, they had an opportunity again today. They do not take advantage of a game. John, we've said this before, and another one-score loss. It is John. I'm Nick Hanley. He's John Schreiner. Joey Colbert taking your phone calls. Again, the Dingman's Collision Center and Mechanical Repair hotline is 402-951-1620. If you're getting a busy signal, just wait. We are full with lines. Equitable Bank is where we take banking personally, a proud sponsor of Big Red Overreaction. Also, Jason, a contracting hotline. That is a 402-951-1620. Dingman's Collision Center. Also, Big Red Overreaction brought to you by No Name Nutrition. Live a better, healthier, more natural life. Johnny's got a scoreboard up
brought to you by Peerless Energy Systems, your local compressed air systems experts. Still at the half, games underway. Number 13, Boise State, San Jose State tied at 14. The Broncos trailed by 14, but came all the way back to tie it at the break. Halftime in Manhattan, Arizona State 21. Kansas State, number 16 in the country. Ooh, they're in trouble right now. They have 0 at the half. Oregon, Wisconsin, a little tighter than maybe we expected. Number 1 team in the country, just a 3-point lead with 2 minutes to go until half. Tennessee with a 10-7 lead on Georgia. And there are 2 games still to come tonight that have not yet kicked off. 8:30 p.m. on your FS1. Washington State takes on the Lobos of New Mexico. And at 9:15, how about this? Kansas at BYU. Did you have BYU being this good this year? Certainly did not. That's your scoreboard, brought to you by Peerless Energy Systems.
And Indiana going to a college football playoff. Who had that on the bingo card going in?
They got to beat Ohio State, I think.
Now, we can all talk about what we had for a Nebraska preseason record, but I'm pretty sure we could all agree on that none of us had Indiana as essentially a lock in the college.
There's a lot of
playoff.
Signetti chatter in the stream chat tonight.
Yes, I have seen that. Let's lead it off with Randall on the Jay Stinnett Contracting Hotline. Good evening, Randall. You're on Big Red Overreaction.
Hey, guys. Hey, it's going to be tough to pass that last caller because he pretty much got to the brutal point of things.
Mm-hmm.
But, my red flag moment this year was early. It was leaving the Northern Iowa game. And I just had this uneasy feeling as we were walking out, and I was talking to the guy I went to the game with. I said, man, it was disturbing how challenging it was for us to get off the field on third down against Northern Iowa. And it just doesn't seem like that's gotten better. That just seems like to be a nemesis. But that's my one statement. My other ones, I'm out of state, so I don't get all the information during the week. What's the status on Carter Nelson? Is he hurt or
not
is he just
that I'm aware of? Thought we might see a little bit more of him today.
Has he been relegated to the same milk box that Jalen Lloyd was on?
Yeah.
Because today, to me, it was the first time I'd seen Jalen.
Listen,
that was.
I think we do this, Randall. If Nebraska was sitting at, I don't know, 8-2 right now, would you be worried about where Carter Nelson is?
Well, it depends upon how well our current tight end situation was doing.
Yeah,
sure.
But the point is, I think that we start to think about these things of like, could this player help? Could that player? We ask all these questions when the team is underperforming, and it's natural. And I'm not calling you out for it or anything like that. I think you should ask, like, why aren't there changes being made? Why aren't they trying something different? But the point remains: if Nebraska's 8-2, nobody gives a crap that Carter Nelson hasn't played.
Yeah, I mean, Carter Nelson was on the participation sheet, so he played. But let me ask you: does anybody remember when he was actually on the field?
Yeah, no,
was it on the offense or special teams? Because I don't.
No, and see, that's my question is and no disrespect to Thomas, because I mean, the kid's coming off of 2 ACL reconstruction surgeries. That's not going to be the same guy going back. Is the absence of having a tight end? I'm not a football coach, but is the absence of having a tight end threat in the red zone a huge liability? Because when they put that stat up there the first time we were in, where we were 99th in FBS and scoring in the red zone, and 127th in touchdown scoring in the red zone. And I turned to my family. I said, I didn't even know there was 127 FBS teams.
Yeah.
And that's why I wonder, like, without a tight end, is that a part of the problem in the red zone? And that's why I get back to the Carter Nelson. And I know they've moved him to a slot or something like that, but I always thought tight end was his natural position. But go ahead.
No, appreciate the call, Randall. We got to jump to some more callers here. 402-951-1620. There's a line now open on the Jay Stinnett contracting hotline. We know that they wanted to use him, I would say, essentially as a kind of like Janarin Bonner, other than the fullback element of it.
A hybrid
tight end, yeah. And we saw a couple nice things early in the season. He would show up here and there. If you see pictures of him lately, or if you've been to games and you've seen him just in pads and stuff, you can tell his body is developing. I mean, the guy is a large individual. He's a guy that I'm still curious about this because I think there's only so much that Dana Holgorsen could do in the short time that he was there. He's one of those guys that I'm curious if, while continuing to go through film and evaluating this, just the overall personnel in this offense, if you're looking at a guy like Carter Nelson, that if you're Dana Holgorsen, who's very creative, that you do look at him and say, okay, we got to figure out more ways to get him involved. You still got 2 games to possibly see that. Maybe this is something that in the offseason they get in the lab and are really excited about. I don't know. But it's a fair question, though.
But and I think here's the thing. And what I was talking about with Randall there was this. It's a symptom of the larger problem. Like, the problem is not that Carter Nelson hasn't seen the field more. That's not the problem. The problem is that Nebraska's not getting production out of its wide receivers. Right?
Yeah.
And now you have to start looking like, okay, well, where's Carter Nelson then? Why aren't they getting him on the field to see if he can produce? Like, that's not the base problem. That's a symptom.
Yeah. Yep. Next we've got Ken. Ken, you're on Big Red Overreaction. Good evening, Ken.
Hey guys, how are you?
We're okay. How are you?
Well, you know what? I actually had Nebraska at 9-3 at the beginning of the season.
You're not alone. There were a lot of them out there.
Yeah, I know. And, you know, I can honestly say I'm probably one of probably 4 callers that are sober because I'm a recovering alcoholic and I've been sober since May 1st.
Hey, good on you.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But no. And where I'm going with this is that being able to watch games sober, oh my God, there's so much I was missing when I was drinking. It's not just, Nebraska doesn't have a lack of talent. Yeah, we're not the most talented team in the world. But do you ever watch their mannerisms on the field?
Oh, yeah. A big body language guy. Yep.
I am as well.
Oh, my God. I mean, their shoulders are so drooped on the field when they're playing. I mean, not to mention their heads. They're guys. Am I wrong?
No.
But I think that they're playing for the great, fantastic facilities that they have at Lincoln and the Adidas swag. I swear to God, it's like they don't care if they win or lose. All they want is some of them want the education, but most of them want the free meals, the cool facilities, and the swag.
I don't know. I wouldn't go that far, Ken. I don't think you make it to major college football if you don't care about winning. I would not go that quite there.
And you know what? I may have been exaggerating a little bit, but watch their mannerisms on the field. They just seem like they're just going through the motions instead of wanting to win.
Hey, you know what, Ken? I understand how it looks. I mean, I would like to. I'm with John. I think when it comes down to it, that they're competitors. They want to win, but the fact that you're questioning that, I think speaks volumes. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating. I'm almost ready to quit watching college football altogether and start watching Blue Bloods reruns. Because I'm tired.
Don't do that.
I'm tired of watching other teams succeed and Nebraska just go through the motions and fail. So anyway, thanks for your time, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the call.
We have a Peerless Energy Systems scoreboard update. Your local compressed air systems experts. Wisconsin has taken the lead on Oregon with 25 seconds left in the second quarter. The number one team in the country trails by 4, 10-6, as they head to the halftime locker rooms.
And this is why I love our folks in the stream. Y'all are great. Doug says bold call, and you will boat race Wisconsin 42-17.
Yeah. This is, I mean, if you follow any of like the Husk guys on Twitter, it's like Saturday, we'll never win again. Monday, well, maybe.
Yeah.
On Thursday,
by Friday,
we're going to win the national championship.
Yep. Friday, you're all in.
Yep.
We do have a phone line open on the Jason to Contracting Hotline, 402-951-1620. Let's go back to Bud. Bud was trying to get on earlier. Bud is back. Good evening, Bud. You're on Big Red Overreaction.
What's up, Bud?
Hey, is this Nick?
This is me.
Nick, this is Bud.
Hey, Bud. My man.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I got a number to throw out at you, Bud.
All right.
Nick, I got a number to throw at you.
Throw it at me.
22.
22.
22 conference titles. That's what Bud's got.
Oh, God.
West Canaan.
What?
Oh, God.
Bud Kilmer.
Bud Kilmer.
Yes.
Yeah. Nick, I'm in East LA. I just left the Coliseum.
I love we're talking to legendary Bud Kilmer.
Yeah.
This is a legend. Listen.
How was the crowd though? I heard it was essentially a home game at least.
So, Bud, we never made it to our seats because it was half full. So we just sat where we needed to seat ourselves.
And you clearly avoided drinking.
I have not had a drink tonight, but Nick.
He can't even say his own name. Yeah.
Thank you, Bud, for calling.
Nick, have you been to West Canaan?
It's been a while. I haven't been there since Bud Kilmer left in disgrace.
Hey, lead your dummy offense out to the field for a scrimmage, all right?
These boys having time of their lives. These boys having time of their lives.
Just get the oop-de-oop going, all right?
You have a good night.
See you, Bud. Wow.
What in the hell are we doing?
We needed that.
What are we doing?
We needed that.
What are we doing?
I honestly have no idea who that was.
That's it. Shut it down.
He was just talking to me like I still don't know who that was. But
that's it.
We were getting a lot of West Canaan Coyotes in the 22 district titles under Bud Kilmer.
God willing.
I'll bring back number 23. We can't go to break until we got to redeem ourselves.
If your granny lives in Bangville.
Tonight we play Bangville. Tonight we beat Bangville. Let's go to Mike. Mike, you're on Big Red Overreaction. You got to top this somehow. Mike? Oh, boy. All right, it's on Dan now. Dan, you got to top our last caller.
Dan, any thoughts on West Canaan against Bangville?
Yeah, you're on Big Red Overreaction, by the way.
Well, we're not going to Bangville next week. We're going to Pound Town. We're going to get smacked next week against Wisconsin, and we're going to get smacked by Iowa. Pound Town City. That's where we're going. So let me give a hypothetical. You and I, you guys were sitting there drinking a beer, and I ask you this. Is USC a better option team than Nebraska?
Are they a better option team?
Yeah.
No.
They ran the option better than us tonight.
Because they ran it one time?
They did, and and it was on a third down. It was a big conversion. You're right.
On the field, 40 yards for the first down.
Yeah.
I am so fired up. I haven't called this radio station, but I could vent for 30 minutes. I picked 5-7 for the record for this season. I don't drink the Kool-Aid. You got to show me. I'm sick and tired of all the talk. You got to show me. I haven't seen nothing. You got a 15-year-old coaching the wide receivers. The wide receivers are complete trash. They run sloppy routes. They're so lethargic. It's disgusting watching them play. We run a 3-3-5 with the athletes that we cannot perform the 3-3-5 in the Big Ten. Wisconsin did it. Why did Wisconsin do it and succeed? Because they had linebackers that could run the field and tackle. Our linebackers are garbage. We have the worst safety in Nebraska history with Gifford. I don't know what he is doing. There are so many multiples on this team and with the coaching. The reason why that we're so bad, it's so hard to watch you guys. This is the worst football I have ever seen. I would rather go to my local Platteview High School and watch them play Friday night and watch better football than what I'm watching at this university.
Hey, don't you disparage Platteview High School, my proud alma mater.
Yes. But I mean, you guys, honestly, like, who in the right mind would have picked this team to win more than 8 games this year? There was nothing pointing at all that we were going to even go to a bowl game. You got Rhule. You know what? I think he's going to be eventually a decent quarterback. But I watched his film in high school. He made so many sloppy passes that were completely lucky because they had 5-star receivers on his team that made him look good. And I told myself, I'm like, he's going to come to Nebraska as a freshman because his daddy played at Nebraska and was an All-American, and it's all about the money for the family. Let's call it like it is. So we paid him to come here big time. You knew he was going to start, and here, this is what we got. He's throwing sloppy balls. He's getting picked off. He's not making the right reads. He's scared in the pocket. He can't evade the rush. He gets sacked. And now it's not just on him. It's also the receivers. It's also the offensive linemen. Like I said, guys, there are so many factors on why this team will not go to a bowl game this year. And I knew it from the beginning that they were going to be 5-7 roughly. I knew it. I absolutely knew it, and I called it. And I'm going to win the bet at my company pool. I'll probably win $300. I picked them to be 5-7. Everybody had them had a winning record. Like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way.
Dan, appreciate the call, man.
Congrats on the win.
Yeah, I mean, they technically still could get to 6, even 7, John. I mean, come on. They got 2 games left. Come on, what are we doing here? We got to take a quick break. We are going to be getting back to the phone calls.
That's the
Mark,
best joke you've told ever. I think that's your number one, Nick, right there.
Thank you.
That's your best one yet.
Do I see cool dude Phil up there too? All right, you guys all hang in there. We're going to get back to you.
Phil, that's
Cool
quite a
Dude
handle.
Phil. He's the man. Big Red Overreaction is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Also brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center and Mechanical Repair. Also brought to you by No Name Nutrition. Live a better, healthier, more natural life. We'll get another scoreboard before we're out of here. We'll get some more calls as we get close to wrapping this thing up. USC defeats Nebraska 28-20. Huskers fall to 5-5. They are still 0 for November, still trying to find win number 6, down to just 2 games left. We're back with more Big Red Overreaction here on 1620 The Zone. Nick Hanley, John Schreiner, Joey Colbert on Big Red Overreaction. USC defeats Nebraska 28-20. Couple of numbers to chew on here. It was SC with 441 total yards to Nebraska's 310. The Trojans throw for 259 yards, 191 for Nebraska, 182 rushing yards for SC, while Nebraska runs for 119. Maybe the big number that worked against USC, although you can make a case there could have been more of these. 5 penalties for 70 yards, Nebraska 5 for 40. Of course, there was that pretty obvious defensive hold there at the end of the game.
Nick?
That did.
You telling me you don't trust the officials?
I'm just saying there was that.
What do you got against officials, Nick Hanley?
You got to be better sometimes. Just got to be better.
All right.
Turnovers, each team with a pair. Dylan, obviously, with 2 interceptions. You had the fumble and interception for USC, and it was Nebraska getting 10 points off of those turnovers. Also looking at some of the individual numbers, Dylan throwing 27 of 38 for 191 yards. He did have a touchdown pass to Emmett Johnson, 2 interceptions, a completion percentage of 71%. Actually, all of that with a decent rating. And again, your eyes might tell you a little bit different than what the numbers tell you. Emmett Johnson, 10 carries for 55 yards. It was Dante Dowdell, 8 carries for 52 yards. And your leading receiver, as far as receptions goes, it was Emmett Johnson, 7 catches for 36 yards. But as far as overall yard output, it was Jamal Banks, 5 receptions for 55 yards. Impressive night for USC running back Woody Marks, 19 carries, 146 yards on the ground. Jade Maeva was 25 of 35, 259 yards. He had 3 touchdown passes to 1 interception. So as they turn the page over from Miller Moss to Jade Maeva, he had a pretty solid game other than the strip fumble where
he was carrying a loaf of bread.
He was, and I'm surprised that didn't happen more. He did get bailed out a couple more times. Some passes batted at the line of scrimmage that could have been picked. There are some things, but Maeva with that RPO element, and that's been a killer for Nebraska, was a big part of this.
All right, let's get you your final scoreboard update brought to you by Peerless Energy Systems, your local compressed air systems experts. Boise State's in a dogfight, ladies and gents. The number 13 team in the country tied 21-all with San Jose State. 5:15 to go in the third quarter. Did you know San Jose State has a running back named Floyd Chalk IV?
That's awesome.
Now you do. Arizona State whipping dead ass on Kansas State 24-0 over the number 16 team in the country. Oregon at the half trails Wisconsin 10-6. Georgia has taken a 14-10 lead over Tennessee, and Texas A&M, as expected, beating New Mexico State, who sits at 2-7 on the season, 24-0 that game with just under a minute left in the second quarter. And that's your scoreboard update brought to you by Peerless Energy Systems.
Nebraska volleyball in action right now against Indiana. They are in the first set where Nebraska is leading Indiana 8-5 at last check. I'm sure there have been many more points scored since that. That was 2 minutes ago. Because we are right now at halftime watching as you mentioned, the Wisconsin-Oregon game. Let's get back to our phone calls right now on the Jade Stinnett Contracting Hotline, 402-951-1620. We're going to lead off with James. Good evening, James. You're on Big Red Overreaction.
Hey, guys. Appreciate you taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
I'm just very disappointed about the state of Nebraska football. I remember we were watching this game at my dinner, and we were asking my parents how the 90s were, and they were just telling me all these stories. I wish I could live back there because I don't even think we're going to get anywhere near what the 90s were, and it's just disappointing because as long as I've been alive, we've had losing season after losing season. I don't know if it's fair now to ask that question, but I feel like it's fair to question Matt Rhule and his staff. Like, where do you guys think he'll go after this season? Where do you think the program direction will go? Because I generally have lost a lot of hope, and I really don't think it's ever going to be good ever again. But yeah, that's all. Thank you guys for answering my phone call. Have a good night.
Thanks, James. This offseason is going to be a huge one. There's going to be this is the one thing I will say about Matt Rhule, and I haven't wavered from this, is I think for people who question how serious he's taking his job or if he wants to surround himself with a bunch of yes men or his friends, I think the move that was extremely unique with bringing in Dana Holgorsen, I think that was an example of He gets it. He gets
he
gets the
knows.
pressure.
He knows.
He knows what people expect, what they want to see. And I don't think if this doesn't work out, it'll be lack of effort or not taking the job serious or just expecting things to be handed to them like I think the last coach felt. I think there was some complacency when he got here. Your shoulders sore because everyone's patting you on the back of welcome home. And before you know it, you think, hey, you know what? I got a pretty long runway, so I can just kind of ease into this thing. I think there was a lot of enablers around that coaching staff that took him down a very bad path. I don't see that with Matt Rhule. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that doesn't guarantee success, John. What that means is this is a guy that's going to take a serious look at inward of this program, how he does certain things and the guys that he has on staff at all positions. And
you know what else Matt Rhule knows? Matt Rhule also knows that Nebraska's boosters are not afraid of a buyout. They're not scared by a number.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
They want to see the football team succeed, and they're not afraid to pay out a big sum to get you out of town.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he knows that. He knows that better than anyone. And that's part of the reason he had to make something, had to make a change somehow, because we've all heard it. The year 2 bump under Matt Rhule. Like, it doesn't look good in year 1 under Matt Rhule,
right.
But year 2, that's when they start coming. And then in year 3, you hit the crescendo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, where's the year 2 bump, man? Like, we have not seen it.
Well,
it's not there.
We knew the schedule at the end would provide some challenges, but you're still seeing regression in areas that you shouldn't be seeing regression. And there's a lot there. That's the thing. And this was a game again. I don't want to. A lot of us took Nebraska to lose to USC. I had USC winning by 10. But I'm watching this USC team, and I'm thinking to myself, this isn't a great team. Talent-wise, they've got dudes, but the operation isn't anything that's overwhelming. You're in a situation where you could win this game, and again, it's a lot of that scared of your own shadow, the fear of success. Yeah, I mean, it's just so that's the frustrating part. Sure, there was an idea that Nebraska could come out of the bye week. They could look prepared, and you could feel confident of, okay, even if they lose the game to USC, because USC also coming out of a bye week, and they're desperate. And sometimes that can be a good or bad thing, depending on who's in charge of the controls there. But there was a lot of the same things in a one-score game.
Did you think they looked unprepared for this game?
In certain areas, yeah, I did. Defensively, sure. I understand the Maeva thing threw a little bit of wrench or curveball at your game planning, but you knew what they would try to do, and that was going to be a lot of RPO. They're going to use his athleticism. And that's the weird thing, too. This is now 2 bye weeks, I'm going to say, John, that the offense is what it is.
Mm.
And I'm not letting them off the hook. It's just it needs to be better. But it's not going to be better to a degree that is all of a sudden going to turn this season around. That needs to happen in the offseason. But 2 bye weeks now where the defense has been flat. Yes, the defense has been and I don't even necessarily they didn't really come out flat, but by the end of the first quarter, they were getting gashed and gashed and gashed and gashed.
And without Sierra Wright's pick 6, this is a different looking final score.
Sure.
It looks a lot worse.
Mm-hmm. And that was purely from a bad decision by a quarterback who made a lot of bad decisions today. And unfortunately, Nebraska only capitalized on a few of those occasions. Again, watching USC and the way that they operated today, that's where I think the frustration of this loss sets in. That's where I'm at with that. Let's go to Mark. Mark, you're up on Big Red Overreaction. Good evening.
Good evening. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm doing fairly well.
Good.
Maybe I'm just seeing this game differently than most. First of all, I get the frustration. Believe me, I get it as a lifelong Husker fan. Normally, I would complain after this game, but I'm a little optimistic. I like the game that Dana Holgerson called. I think if Satterfield still would have been calling plays, we probably would have gotten blown out. And really, it came down, in my humble opinion, to 4 plays. There was the pass interference penalty that wasn't called, and then you had basically 2 jump balls that went into the USC receiver's hands. One was a throwaway that he just caught, and then of course the ball that was tipped by Javin Wright. You know, if that's not tipped, we make a tackle, they're going to punt to us. So, I'm encouraged that we have Holgorsen. I hope we can keep him in the off season. And I'm just hoping that we can come out with a W next week. I think the offense will get even better. I'm a little worried about the defense though. So that's all I got, guys.
No, appreciate the call, Mark. Have a good night.
I think it's bigger. Like, I understand the tip balls and that stuff. The difference in this game for me is Nebraska has the ball inside the 10 twice and comes away with 6 points on those 2 possessions.
Yep.
Not 14.
And I don't want to put that on Holgersen's ledger because he's being brought in to correct that.
Well, on one of those possessions, Jamal Banks was standing alone in the end zone, and Dylan Rhule didn't throw him the football.
Didn't see him, And again, this is again where I was okay with what Matt Rhule said 2 weeks ago, that Monday after the UCLA loss, of, hey, we're gonna hold ourselves accountable. He does that every Monday. You guys need to be accountable as well. Players got to play, and he's absolutely right. That is 100% correct. Yeah, coaches got to put them in those positions to succeed. But when they do, and if people look at the all 22, if you're at the game and you're seeing, even this goes back to even when Satterfield was calling plays, that you would see some good play designs. You would see guys running open. Or you'd see a guy at least make the catch in space, and all of a sudden not be able to turn it upfield, would make the wrong read. The instincts it takes over that a player needs to be held accountable for. And that's what we're looking at there. Let's go to Cool Dude Phil. What's up, Phil?
What's up? So I have a comment on offense and defense. So I think the problem on offense is the quarterback. I think he's only seen about half the field. Went to the UCLA game, and it was really crazy how many times we had a guy running wide open and the whole section would be yelling. And so I think here's where the problem is. And you said Matt Rhule knows this and Matt Rhule knows that. Matt Rhule right now knows that he doesn't have the players on the field that give him the best chance to win, because he can't. Because he can't sit Dylan down and put Harburg in there and let him go. Like, I was I was kind of hoping that Dylan would be a little bit stiff so that they'd have to play Harburg, so it wasn't like we're sitting Dylan down and then that would hurt his feelings because they're scared he's going to leave. I think Harburg gives us the best chance to win right now. I mean, you speak about body language. I know you guys will watch this game again. Watch when Harburg's in that game. He's like a stallion that's been in a 4 foot by 4 foot corral, and they let him out for 10 seconds every once in a while. You know, he's ready just to go, and he's developed well. And if you watch Dylan's body language, Dylan practices with him every day. Dylan knows dude's good. And so he's fragile. He's fragile in a lot of different ways. And the thing is with Dana, what Dana's going to do is Dana's going to be able to get 2 or 3 receivers open instead of that 1 receiver open. So if Dylan has 2 or 3 receivers open, then he's going to improve. If he just has 1 receiver open, too much is going on in his mind right now. He can't go through his progressions. He looks calm, but he's not calm. Make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it.
And so with the defense, I think what happens is, if you saw at the beginning of the game, it looked like Colorado. Their first time they had the ball, we were really bum rushing. We were messing their stuff up. And our defensive line doesn't really have enough moves to where they go back to the sidelines, their offensive line, their coaches are like, hey, what is he doing?
Yeah.
What is he doing on this? What is he doing? They're saying he's doing this. He's doing this. So the OC saying, oh, they're all doing this every time. That's their move. Well, just let them go. Let their momentum take them that way. And then we're going to run around. You know what I'm saying? And so we're getting those gas plays, and then we're kind of offset. Our D-backs got to come up, but then when they want to pass, our D-backs are kind of caught in limbo. Like, do I come up and help? And, a few tackles haven't been good, but they're in limbo. They're thinking. They're not reacting.
Yeah.
So, great show, guys. We're going to get bowl eligible. Keep the faith.
Appreciate you,
Good
Phil.
talking to you, Nick.
You as well, my man. Phil always has he's always positive.
I got to quibble.
Yeah.
I got to quibble, man.
Quibble.
We did the Heinrich Harburg experiment last year.
We did.
You didn't get bowl eligible.
I am a Heinrich at most, John. I'm a Heinrich. It's gonna sound weird. I'm cool with an install for a package here and there.
Yeah.
But that's the extent of it for me. Me personally.
He's a mix-in.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the ice cream.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
He's a sprinkle. He's a topping.
He is. Yes.
You like that sort of thing? I'm with you. I understand when the starting quarterback is struggling in certain areas. We've done this. I mean, this goes back to even the most successful days of Nebraska football. Hell, I remember when everybody was clamoring for Frankie London at one point.
Oof.
And the Mickey Joseph, Mike Grant thing. Like, I remember all of those things. I get the, hey, let's bring the other guy.
Do you remember put in Riker Fife?
I do. And then I remember that Purdue game. Hey, by the way, Riker Fife was a hell of a shortstop at Grand Island. That I do know.
Riker Fife was a good athlete.
Yeah, he was.
He wasn't the player to give Nebraska the best chance to win.
When you roll out certain guys that are limited as a quarterback, and I know a lot of you right now probably say, well, isn't Dylan limited right now? What they want to do and what they've built for months in this offense involve a lot more of what Dylan does and very, very little of what Heinrich does. Now, I heard the whole thing during the offseason and leading up to the season of how much improvement Heinrich has made in throwing the football.
Happy for him. Great. Get him on the field somehow.
But
he can't be the starting quarterback.
To say that's the answer. I'm with you. It's the easy thing to say, to change it up. There's an athleticism with Heinrich. There's an element to what he can bring that I think can serve your offense, but in my opinion, not as the full-time starter. Not as hey, we need to shake things up. This is what needs to happen.
You got to try to make it work with Dylan Rhule. You have to. Like, he is not only your most talented quarterback. Like, we're talking raw talent. He's got it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and
I'm not hearing another argument. Dylan Rhule is the most talented quarterback on the roster. That's the end of that story.
Well, here's another thing that
he's also your best peer recruiter on the team.
We discussed this momentarily,
and we've just been talking about how Nebraska needs better players.
Well, earlier in the week, we got into this with the Holgorsen once he was officially the OC, and you think back to some of the quarterbacks that have, really been successful under Dana Holgorsen. Wouldn't Danny Kaelin make more sense than Heinrich Harburg? I mean, if people are, if we're just excluding Dylan out of this, between those two, wouldn't Danny Kaelin make more sense?
For the offense that you're trying to run, certainly would.
I'm just throwing that out there. Let's take one more call, and then we're going to hit a break, our final break here. Let's go to Paul out in Missouri. Good evening, Paul. You're on Big Red Overreaction.
Paul, how about them Tigers?
Paul, you there? All right, let's go to Richie. Speaking of Danny Kaelin, in Bellevue, where Danny Kaelin played high school football, as you all know. Hey, Richie, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I think an ulcer is starting to grow on my belly, though, a little bit.
Thank you for that. I think we all needed that.
Although I am in good health, though, really. But anyway,
glad to hear it.
I have a few things to touch on. I don't want to come off as a complainer. But first of all, these officials goofed up. 4 times we had pass interference on our receivers, and it was very obvious, especially that last one in the end zone, and neither one of them were called. The other thing is the defensive backs, again, let that receiver behind them twice, and that's 14 points that they got easily. and we weren't on that guy like glue on the paper. You know what I mean? And this seems to happen. This seems to happen almost every game, where the defensive backs let that receiver, and he's got 90% advantage on us when it happens. And the third thing is, God bless Dylan Rhule and everything. He's a freshman and all that stuff, and he's all this kind of hoopla. But where I come from, if one player can't deal with it right now, give him a break, let him get freshened up, put the other guy in, let him do his thing, and we all know Harburg can do it right away, and he's like a bull when he runs, and he's just more effective, I think, right now. And the young man from, I think here in Omaha, Kalen.
Yeah, Danny Kalen from Bellevue West. Yep.
Yeah. Give him a chance too. I mean, that doesn't insult Dylan Rhule. It gives him strength to think about what he needs to improve on, I think. And but they got 14 easy points from us because of our defensive back. Now our defensive backs, I don't know if Tommy Hill played or not, but
he did.
Sometimes
he was there.
Sometimes they let the receiver behind them, and that's 90% advantage for them to get a touchdown, which happened tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, well, I told you about the officials already, so.
All right.
And the only thing I can say now is I'm ready for the next game. And my wife is not a real football nut like me, but she was with me today at DJ's in Bellevue, and she went through the whole game with me patiently, only to be discouraged because the Huskers didn't win by a point at least.
Hey,
but anyway,
I'm glad she stuck with you though on that one, because that's not always the easiest watch.
Yeah, she stuck in there with us. Okay, she's becoming a strong fan.
Appreciate it, Richie.
Right.
Hey, you have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, bye-bye.
All right. We're going to step aside, take a quick break here. When we come back, we will wrap things up. We got some emails, a couple tweets we want to get to as well before we say goodnight on Big Red Overreaction, where USC defeats Nebraska 28-20. Huskers fall to 5-5. They will have a chance to get bowl eligible next week at 3:00 at Memorial Stadium, Senior Day, against the Wisconsin Badgers, who are they're balling against Oregon right now.
They're about to score.
They're up
again.
10-6 in the third quarter, and they are at the 10-yard line of the Ducks. So we'll see how all of that goes. We're back after a short break here. It's Big Red Overreaction on 1620 The Zone. Big Red Overreaction is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Also brought to you by Dingman's Collision Center and Mechanical Repair, and by No Name Nutrition. Live a better, healthier, more natural life. I'm Nick Hanley. He's John Schreiner. Joey Colbert has been taking the calls. We'll get to our last two callers here, but also wanted to get to our Equitable Bank inbox. A lot of emails have come in too, and I want to start with just a few. This one comes from Cool12. Said the failure of the last drive was its beginning. Nebraska covered about 30 yards in about 2 minutes and 10 seconds and ran out of time despite effectively finishing the game with 2 timeouts. That's Barry in Elkhorn. Yeah, there was a little bit of that. You and I, as we were watching this game, we were definitely
we questioned some of the clock management stuff.
We were what you would call lay down Larrys. We didn't have a lot of confidence that this was going to take place. This one comes from Zach the Lego Maniac. He said the wide receivers sucking is mostly on McGuire. Banks especially was better at his previous program. His coach is a clown.
A clown?
Should be on grad school.
I don't know that he's a clown. He's just maybe not ready to be a big-time wide receiver coach.
It could be a little bit. Could be a little bit of that. Our man Doug chimes in on his own inbox. How many people can do that, by the way? I said, lost us the game. Talent level very low. Number 7 is too small. Malcolm Hartsock, by the way. They went to that matchup over and over and over. Yes, they did. Pissed off that this team reeled me in again. Doubt I will go to the Wisconsin game. It's like Lucy pulling the football on Charlie Brown. Why don't we bring in Herbert when we need to run in the red zone? I think he meant Herbert. That might have been a typo there. He said, we can't overcome any adversity. Doug, there's a lot of that I agree.
I'd love to bring Justin Herbert in.
That would be sweet. That would be cool. I just the we can't overcome any adversity part of it. Where Doug ends that is where I also
that's the big mentality problem,
and that's the belief of the fan base, and unfortunately, I think it's the belief of a section of that sideline.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality of it. You can't prove otherwise. You can't convince me otherwise that does not loom large on that sideline, whether you're on the road or at home, that even in a game where it is gettable, this game was gettable, John. We watched the same game.
Coached football team. I'll tell you that right now.
It is. Oh, USC, yes. Yep. And it's not saying, Nebraska is completely clean in their operation too. The clock management stuff. There's things.
One of the big things I wrote down in my notes from this game was USC is crazy undisciplined. Like they have zero chill. They can't stay out of their own way. They kept trying to step on their own foot, and Nebraska was there every time to put a pillow right underneath it so they landed softly.
Yeah. It's like, hey, here, we got you. Don't you worry about that. Barringer fan says this is kind of funny. If Wisconsin upsets Oregon, then they don't have anything really to play for next week.
Classic trap game.
Yep. See, we're just trying to provide some hope out
on
there.
The road after a big win. Classic trap game.
Let's take our last couple calls here on the Jay Stidda Contracting Hotline and say hello to Logan. Good evening, Logan. You're on Big Red Overreaction.
Hey, fellas. How are you?
Good. How are you, man?
Having fun.
I'm glad you're having fun, man, because Saturdays have become such a depression.
Logan, what are you a cocktail guy or beer guy? Is there something that can take the edge off?
Do you need a trip to Colorado real quick?
Actually, I'm a pastor, so I don't do any.
Oh my God! Oh, hey, thank you. Okay, all right. You're one of the good ones.
I just scream into my pillows. On my
Fair enough.
I do have a question for you before I dig in.
Mm-hmm.
At any point during the fourth quarter, did you feel like, we're going to pull this game out?
No. And I hate that I felt that way, Logan. I really do. But yes, I did not feel that way.
The entire fan base feels that way. In every game, a buddy of mine texts me. He's like, "Is this the game we pull it out?" And I just texted him back, "No," because it never happens. Like they give you zero confidence ever. And that's both sides of the ball that they can nail it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of things, John, I agree with you. I don't believe in curses, but at some point, like it's statistically like an anomaly, right? That they don't fall backwards into some kind of win like this. Like you said, USC's not a good team, right? But you even see Wisconsin. Like I'm watching Wisconsin right now. Like they may not win the game, but at least like right now they're handling Oregon.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's like at what point? It's been 10 years. At what point do we like fall backwards into a game where the guys are on point and they look like a team that coming off a bye week is just zoned in and pissed off, but they don't play pissed off.
I think you saw it happen. I think that anomaly game happened in the second game of the season.
Oh yeah, Colorado. Yeah. Colorado was that game. Absolutely, Logan.
Well, so that's the point. Everybody's like, why is it that everybody is getting better towards the end of the season and we aren't getting better? I think we weren't good to begin with, and you catch people at the beginning of the season while they're trying to work things out, and you just happen to get lucky. Yep. Now, granted, I do believe that Colorado, they circled that game, right? They came in pissed off, they played pissed off, and it showed. But I still think early in the season, people are still trying to figure things out, and you just catch them. You just do. But one of the things that I wanted to point out, guys, because I know you guys are trying to finish up the show, is I was listening to the radio broadcast, and one of the things that they said, Sharpie was like, I can't believe that USC is coming out right off the bat and trying to take deep shots. And I said to my son, I go, I don't, because if they watch tape, they know that our back end is good for giving up at least 3 bombs a game because they just get caught in the wash.
Yeah, look what Indiana did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the amount of 50-50 balls that Indiana won in that game right there should say, yep. I mean, why not take a couple of those shots?
And Maivia is not a good quarterback, and he put the ball out there multiple times, and we were only able to take advantage once. And I don't know, Tommy Hill's like just falling off the face of a cliff because that dude, like everybody's talking about a first round pick, and that dude ain't even a late day 3 pick at this point. Mm-hmm. Like he just doesn't look like he cares. At this point, why not try Bly Hill? Like that's the thing I don't get. And the last thing I'll say, guys, before I go, the gashes in the run game at the end by USC. Yep. If you watch our safeties, their run fits are god awful. They're so bad, and our defensive line ends up getting caught in the wash. Safeties are out of alignment, and then boom, you're getting gashed left and right. Anyway, that all I have to say, guys. I appreciate you. Thanks for always being the therapy at the end of a game. Have a great night.
Thanks, Logan. Appreciate you. Good thoughts there too. A lot of points that I can't disagree with. I really can't. You were, John astutely pointed out a lot of the counter and a lot of what USC was doing in the run game. I'll say this because I think sometimes it's faux pas to call certain guys out on this defense. This has not been a banner year for Isaac Gifford.
Nope.
This has not been a good year.
And look, I'm not afraid to say it. I've said it on the radio. Gifford and Bullock are guys who we love. Like, we love them. They're Nebraska kids. They walked on. Mm-hmm. They chose to play for their home school program. But there's a key phrase in there. They walked on.
Yep.
They are walk-on players.
There are going to be certain limitations.
There are going to be limitations.
Yep.
I love those kids. I love their effort. But they're not always in the right spot.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I cannot disagree with that. Zach, you are the final caller of the night on Big Red Overreaction. What do you got?
My immediate thought going into this game is we are going to win. Here we are. We lose to USC. We're going in back to Lincoln to play Wisconsin, a team we have not played competitively for the last 10 years and won a game. We have one game to get to bowl eligible. What are we doing?
Mm-hmm. So if I'm reading you correctly, Zach, what is more likely to happen, that Nebraska finishes 5-7 or they go bowling?
I don't think we're going bowling.
Yep.
Yeah. It's trending that way hard.
I don't think you're alone in that thought, man.
This should have been a game we should have won, and we didn't. And we left a lot of points out there.
That's the biggest glaring thing for me, Zach, is
And now we're going home, and we got Wisconsin coming to Lincoln, and we're not looking good against a team that has destroyed us over the last 10 plus years. What do we do?
We hope and pray.
That's why you play the games, man. That's why you play the games.
Zach, what are you going to do tonight? What's your plans tonight, man?
Get home safe, Zach.
No, I'm home safe.
Okay.
It's just crazy that we can't get out there and just put a team that we should beat and win. And now we're here again with the bowl game hump that we can't get over.
Yeah. Zach, I hear you, my man. Hey,
not wrong.
At least salvage your night. Do something that Zach loves tonight, okay?
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
That's
All
Zach.
right. Parting shots. Joey, turn your mic on. Does Nebraska get to a bowl game this year? Yes or no?
Nope.
No.
No.
I don't see it.
It's a consensus.
Yeah. I felt this way that for people who listen to our show the Friday before the Indiana game, I said, if they cannot get by the Indiana game, this could be something. Because that Indiana game, those are the types of games that I felt like these seniors came back to win. The big stage type games. You're facing a upstart team. You're supposed to expose them, and it was the complete reverse. What that might do to this team, what that might do to Nebraska. Now, of course, the following week, they showed out good against Ohio State. Still lost, but they showed out good. So then we felt, hey, UCLA coming home. There it is. There's win number 6. UCLA struggling. They're a 2-win team. Yeah, they're coming off a bye week, but big deal. And you saw how that game went.
When I made the season prediction this year, I said I thought they would go 7-5, but I felt like they needed to win their first 6. Because I just felt like if this team wasn't bowl eligible by the time they played Ohio State, things had a very, very high likelihood of turning south in the back half of the schedule.
Mm-hmm. And
they famously were not bowl eligible by the time they played Ohio State. And now things have turned south hard in the back half of this schedule. Like, it was just so predictable that if they didn't get that monkey off the back early, and they were going down the stretch, and you start counting like, okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got to get one of these last 4. Okay, now we got to get one of these last. Okay, now we got to get one of the last 2. Okay, now we're down to the Iowa game, and if we don't win, we're staying home again. Like, the pressure starts to build, and all that residue from the past starts to seep out of the floorboards of the program again. And then everyone's walking around, spreading it all over everything. And it just becomes this infectious disease that never goes away.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it's the one thing that until this program can overcome that it basically comes down to this, John, when they can handle success, when this program can handle success. Remember, there was a brief moment they were in the top 25. All those things, when you can finally handle success, and even when a game, because in the Big Ten, you're going to have adverse moments. When you can look at that sideline and say, yeah, they got it. Yeah. Like Logan asked, did any of us feel confident in the fourth quarter?
We were all sitting in here, right?
Yep.
We
were wondering how that series would end, how they would actually not score.
Yep. None of us were on the edge of our seat.
Yep.
None of us were standing up, pacing around the room. None of us were expecting it to end any other way than it did.
Until you can get over that, until you can reverse that narrative of this team, it's going to be a lot of the same stuff where we'll be close, we'll be talking about it, we'll get our hopes up, and then the Lucy effect.
And Hank, no, what I described was not a curse. Because a curse is some external force that acts from without. This is all happening from within.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Again, big thanks to our sponsors on Big Red Overreaction. Equitable Bank where they take banking personally. Also, the J Student Contracting Hotline. Great calls. Appreciate all of you. Also, Dingman's Collision Center and Mechanical Repair, and No Name Nutrition. Live a better, healthier, more natural life. Also, big thanks to Peerless Energy Systems, bringing you your scoreboard. Great stuff from everybody in our stream. Appreciate all of you, all of your thoughts. As I just mentioned too, whether you agree, disagree, we appreciate all the passion, all the takes. We're all in this with you. So it is it is what it is, and we'll get ready for another game, and we'll see if Nebraska can somehow prove us all wrong and become bowl eligible, because it was a consensus. All three of us said nope.
I'm really hoping that I'm wrong.
I do. I love when I'm wrong, and I'm wrong a lot. So you think I'd be a happy man? Creighton Blue Jays defeat.
You're a happy man. What are you talking
That's
about?
right. That's right. 14th ranked Creighton men's basketball defeat Kansas City 79-56. So we are going to take you right out to CHI Health Center for the post-game show with Jimmy Allen. That is coming up right here on 1620 The Zone. For Joey, for John, I'm Nick. Thank you so much for tuning in to Big Red Overreaction. We'll talk to you next time. Have a great rest of your weekend.